What is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global here, back with another video, and in this one we are going to continue with the free agency talks and a few different free agents that the Patriots could look into in just a couple weeks when the new league year begins. And in this one, we're going to be talking about a few different cornerbacks that New England could target in free agency. Now, a little bit of a spoiler alert here. One of these guys isn't going to be J.C. Jackson. That one's obvious. New England needs to get J.C. Jackson back to be their starting cornerback. If they don't, some of these guys can still take over as number one, but, ideally, New England would have an elite secondary if they get J.C. Jackson back as number one and then plug one of these guys in at that number two spot. Now, I am going to be making this a series. I already covered about 4 wide receivers the Patriots could cover in, or the 4 wide receivers the Patriots could target in free agency. Now we're doing corners, and then I will be covering linebackers next. But without further ado, let's hop into this. So the first cornerback that I have that New England should target is Raiders cornerback Casey Hayward. Now, Hayward is a veteran in the NFL, and it seems that either way New England decides to go, whether J.C. Jackson re-signs with this team or not, they would like to bring in a veteran cornerback. If J.C. Jackson does leave, I think that point becomes even more evident. At 32 years old, obviously, you do want a guy who is going to be a little bit faster, a little bit more, bring a little bit more youth here to the secondary. But at the end of the day, having a guy who knows the NFL and knows what to expect is going to be absolutely key for the Patriots. And Casey Hayward really is a high-quality cornerback. Now, in 2020, he did have a down year. That's why when he went into free agency, he only signed a 1-year deal with the Raiders, which actually proved to be a really good choice by Casey Hayward because he ended up coming back out in 2021 and having a spectacular season. In 2019, PFF grade gave him an overall grade of 83 with 944 defensive snaps. He ranked as the 4th best cornerback in the NFL out of 115 qualified corners. In 2020, he only had about 788 snaps, and PFF graded him a grade of 59.5, and he was graded the 69th best cornerback out of 121 qualified. In 2021, really took a big step forward, had 1,153 defensive snaps, a PFF grade of 76.6, was the starting cornerback for the Raiders, and was ranked as the 12th best cornerback out of 116 qualified. Now, like I mentioned before, Casey Hayward is a starting cornerback in the NFL. Even his PFF free agency profile even states the fact that he is a starting caliber corner that will look to get a starting job somewhere in the NFL for 2022. Now, the thing I will say about Casey Hayward is that he is mainly a zone-heavy type of cornerback, as where New England does love to run more so man-to-man personnel. But in 2021, New England ran more zone coverage than we've ever seen because of some of the question marks and deficiencies that they had within the secondary and not being able to really mismatch their defensive backs with opposing offensive weapons like they've been able to do the last several years. Now, Casey Hayward is still very good in man-to-man. He really is just more of a zone cornerback. That's just what he's used to playing in the last several years, whether it's been with the Raiders or the Chargers. Mainly been playing in zone coverage, but don't let that confuse you. He still can play man-to-man, especially if you re-sign J.C. Jackson and Casey Hayward's your number 2 cornerback. Then you're not asking him to go up against the best of the best in man coverage. Now, his projected market here is to get about a 1-year contract worth about $6 million. I actually think for the value you would be getting from Casey Hayward, $6 to $6.5 million would not be a bad price at all. I think that's actually a bargain deal if the Patriots could get him for that. Now, unfortunately, this isn't going to give you an insurance policy for several years down the road. At 32 years old, you probably do only want to sign him to a 1-year contract because at that point, a year from now, he's going to be 33 years old. But it will at least give you an answer for the 2022 season. Now, next up on this list is a guy that's going to bring much more youth to the Patriots secondary. This one is going to be Darius Williams. He's going to be a cornerback from the Los Angeles Rams. Now, he originally entered the league back in, I believe, 2018. In his rookie year, he actually started with the Rams, then went to Baltimore, then at the end of the season, re-signs with the Rams, and then since then has played out his contract with the Rams. 28 years old, so obviously giving you much more youth than Casey Hayward is going to. Downside here about Darius Williams is that he's not going to bring height, okay? 5'9", 187 pounds. That really is going to bring the question marks as an outside perimeter cornerback. Now, because he has played with the Rams, he has played as a number 2 cornerback. So Darius Williams is the type of cornerback where I like him paired up very well next to J.C. Jackson, but I don't like Darius Williams as a number 1 starting cornerback, mostly due to that size. Now, even dating back to college, not a lot of bad tape on him. He's always been a very good, high-quality cornerback, but if you're asking him to now become your number 1 starting cornerback going up against the best of the best talent in the NFL at 5'9", I think there's going to start to be some bad tape on his repertoire. He's shown with the Rams his true ability to be a high-quality number 2 cornerback next to an elite corner, again, Jalen Ramsey. In this case, if the Patriots get him next to J.C. Jackson, you have Darius Williams as number 2, J.C. as number 1, and then you bump Jalen Mills to number 3, and I think that helps really solve these cornerback issues while also bringing some youth within the secondary. Another thing that I really like about Darius Williams, unlike Casey Hayward, is that he's really not scheme-specific. If the Patriots want to play zone, he has the ability to play zone. If the Patriots want to play press man coverage, Darius Williams can play press man coverage. The Patriots really like to do a multitude of different things with their defensive scheme, and I think Darius Williams would fit really well into that due to his defensive versatility. Now, I will say he is coming off one of his worst seasons so far in the NFL. Maybe that could get the Patriots a little bit more of a bargain deal. In 2021, he had 1,164 defensive snaps, and PFF gave him an overall grade of 61.8. He ranked as the 64th best corner out of 116 qualified. In 2020, he had 913 defensive snaps, was graded with an 81 PFF grade, ranked as the 4th best cornerback out of 121 qualified, and then in 2019 had 221 defensive snaps and had a 78.9 defensive grade. Williams has shown the ability to be a ball hawk, such as in 2020, his best season where he put up 4 interceptions and 14 passes defended. The year prior to that, in 2019, he was able to put up 4 passes defended and 2 interceptions, and then in 2021, like I said, had a down year in which he only recorded 9 passes defended but 0 interceptions. Again, for me, the main thing that is going to concern me about Darius Williams is that size, but as long as he isn't the number 1 starting cornerback and he doesn't have to go up against the all-time best talent in the NFL, then I think he'll be perfectly fine. He's been fine while he's with the Rams, and I don't see that changing as long as he can stay within that CB2 to CB3 role. Now, as for how much would he cost, this is going to be a little bit more than what you'd have to get for Casey Hayward. Again, you're getting a much younger guy, a guy you can sign to a longer stem contract and is going to bring youth to your defense. So with that being said, he is projected to make about $13 million a year. I don't think he's going to make $13 million. I think he's going to be a little bit less than that, but still, nonetheless, he's going to be more than Casey Hayward, and he isn't going to be on the cheaper side. Now, next up on this list is going to be Eagles cornerback Steven Nelson. Now, he is going to bring another veteran aspect to this defense. He's going to be older than Williams, but he's going to be younger than Casey Hayward at 29 years old. Been in the league since 2015. This is another one of those guys where you don't want him to be your starting cornerback. There's not many cornerbacks in this market that I would be comfortable with saying, hey, if J.C. Jackson leaves, I'm okay with you being my number 1 corner. Not many guys at all. So with that being said, Steven Nelson is another one of those number 2 cornerbacks. Now, he's someone that I think Bill Belichick would actually really like a lot. He is a little bit undersized at 5'11", 194 pounds, but does play on the perimeter, which is what the Patriots need, but plays very feisty. He plays with a lot of physicality to try to make up for those deficiencies that he has with his size. Now, he is going to bring versatility to the Patriots defense, not as much as Williams would, but he is going to still bring the ability to play in zone coverage and man coverage. He is more of a zone coverage cornerback, but he is able to still hold his own when it comes to man coverage. Now, if you're asking me who the better all-around versatile cornerback is, that would definitely be Williams, but Steven Nelson is still going to bring that versatility to be able to play in either a zone scheme or a man scheme. Now, he's somebody that I think is going to get a multi-year contract in the NFL. Still only 29 years old. No reason he shouldn't get a multi-year contract. I think he's going to get, probably $5 to $6 million, $7 million at most per year. PFF has him actually ranked as the 45th best free agent. So I do expect him to have a market, but he isn't an elite cornerback, which to me kind of goes into the factor of he isn't going to be making, $9-10+ million per year. The real question is, what version of Steven Nelson are you going to get? Because it seems that the last few years, he's just kind of digressed as each year has gone on. In 2019, he had 1,011 defensive snaps. PFF gave him an overall grade of 80.5. He was ranked as the 6th best cornerback out of 115 qualified. In 2020, he had 975 defensive snaps. PFF graded him 68.1. He was the 36th best cornerback out of 121 qualified. And then in 2021, had 1,052 snaps with a PFF grade of 62.9, graded as the 57th best corner out of 116 qualified. Overall, just another one of those guys that isn't going to cost an arm and a leg, is a really good number 2 option, is going to bring versatility whether the Patriots want to play man or zone, and is still going to bring a veteran aspect on the field and in the locker room. And lastly on this list is going to be a guy that I've actually seen linked back to the Patriots several times, and it does make a lot of sense in Charvarius Ward. Now, if you want youth, Ward is going to give you exactly that. Originally drafted in 2018 by the Kansas City Chiefs, so straight off the bat, he's going to be a guy that gives you experience, not just with one of the best teams in the NFL, but is going to give you Super Bowl experience, is going to give you playoff experience, and is also coming off of that rookie contract. Now, Ward is another one of those guys who isn't going to be your number 1 starting cornerback if J.C. Jackson leaves. Again, Casey Hayward is probably the only one on this list that I'd be okay with saying, hey, J.C. Jackson leaves, he could be a number 1 starting cornerback for us. But Charvarius Ward would still be a very good number 2 corner. He was the number 2 corner there in Kansas City. Now, he would actually fit what the Patriots want to do very, very well, as he's a number 2 cornerback in a man-heavy scheme. Now, again, while the Patriots played more zone coverage in 2021 than we've seen them play in the last probably several years, or even in general since Bill Belichick took over for the Patriots as their head coach, I truly do believe that Belichick wants to go back to the old ways of this Patriots defense and make this a primarily man-heavy defense. J.C. Jackson was the best graded cornerback in man coverage in 2021. Unfortunately, he didn't have a cornerback next to him that was able to play, at least have quality play, in man coverage. You bring in a guy like Ward, you bring J.C. Jackson back, and now Bill Belichick is able to play a man-heavy defense yet again. Again, a guy who's going to bring youth to the Patriots defense, guy that you could sign to a multi-year contract, only 25 years old, still young, still raw, still in his prime, and is actually going to bring some height as an outside cornerback at 6'1". Now, in 2021, he played 933 defensive snaps. PFF gave him an overall grade of 71.2. He was ranked as the 21st best cornerback out of 116 qualified. This was actually his best season in the NFL. In 2020, he had 980 defensive snaps played with a 64.3 PFF grade, was the 51st best cornerback out of 121 qualified. In 2019, played 1,245 defensive snaps with a PFF grade of 65.7, and was the 51st best cornerback out of 115 qualified. Now, because he is still very young, because he is going to bring some quality height as an outside cornerback with the ability to be a high-quality number 2 cornerback, playing primarily in a man coverage defense, which a lot of teams like to use, I do actually think that he is going to have a pretty decent market, and he could go anywhere from $8 to $10 million per year. But guys, that is going to be it for today's video. That is going to be 4 cornerbacks that the New England Patriots could target in free agency. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section below. Remember to leave a big like on this video and subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. Like always, I appreciate you guys for watching, but you already know what I'm about to say. Go Pats.